Stipe was asked what was his biggest improvement since his first fight with Ngannou, and he says his efficiency, which I think is important against Ngannou. Ngannou would be the opposite. He's inefficient. Everything's power. Everything's full of energy. So if Stipe can wear him down, move his feet, maybe take some patient rounds, hit the body, move, clinch and grab, I mean, that's his key to victory. And like everyone says, if you're a betting person, if you're going to bet Ngannou, under 1.5 is probably your best bet. If you think Stipe is going to win, you got to go that over 1.5.
Well, this is an interesting main event, and the reason why I love this rematch is because, and I keep mentioning this in all the interviews that I'm doing, you look at, what's happened since that last fight. There's the Derek Lewis fight, which you don't get really anything out of.
Yep.
But then the last 4 or 5 fights that Francis has had, I think it's 5 fights, it's a total of under 3 minutes of cage time. So on one hand, if you're Francis, you don't have the in-cage competition to put all of your new skills into practice. He hasn't been able to do that. And then on the flip side, for Stipe, you don't have much tape to watch. You don't really know what this guy's improved at. So as a coach, who do you think that favors more, Joe?
Well, I think the unknown of Francis is going to really favor him because we haven't seen him, right? That's the thing. And obviously, we're talking about coach of the year. We're talking about his team and people around him. He has put the work in the wrestling in the past 2 years. So to say that he is the same fighter just because we haven't seen it would be a misunderrepresentation because he's been working. I mean, you can tell his wrestling is better, but we just haven't seen it. So I think that's where things get interesting. How does he apply that 2 years of wrestling training, not physical fight experience, but how does he take that wrestling experience in the training room and apply it to someone who, we're talking about being the best heavyweight of all time. So I think it's how he's going to apply it. But I honestly, genuinely believe he's not going to need to wrestle much in this fight. I think his power is just going to be enough to keep the fight slower, keep maybe, Stipe a little bit hesitant from shooting in. But who knows? And that's what makes this fight so damn exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And the line surprises me. I think Francis is only about a small favorite. I think he's -110 or -115.
Yeah.
The last time they fought, he was -175. He's a much bigger favorite.
Yeah.
But what's changed since then? That's the part that's interesting to me is what's changed since then is that Stipe has absorbed 300+ strikes from Daniel Cormier, significant strikes from Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
He's had the first fight was 1 round and then there was 4 rounds. So he's had about 50 minutes of in-cage time with Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
Francis has barely had any in-cage time. So you look at the damage, Stipe has accrued more damage. The last time Stipe took a short notice, kind of a shorter turnaround fight, about 6 months, was when he lost to Cormier after the Francis fight. This time around, it's only about 6 months as well.
Yeah.
So, and we've heard Cormier say in interviews that if Stipe doesn't take enough time off, he thinks he's going to lose to Francis. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's had enough time to really recover from all of the different damage he's taken over the course of time from Cormier. And then you look at the different heavyweights that have fought wrestlers. You look at Lewis versus Blades. You look at Francis versus Blades versus Velasquez. It seems like a lot of these heavyweights are learning how to stifle the wrestling of other heavyweights. And I would say that both Cain Velasquez and Blades are higher, caliber wrestlers or higher pedigree wrestlers than Stipe. But Stipe was still able to take Francis down 6 times last time around. And I don't think that Stipe is going to be able to win this fight without getting a takedown.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think the key to victory for these guys, and I think for Stipe, it really has to be out or in. You can't stay in that mid-range. And what Ngannou does well is, and if you see it with the Overeem knockout, when he throws his big power punches, they're not wide, okay? So, if he throws wide looping punches, it's easy for a wrestler to get underneath. He throws these big shots as uppercuts on angles. So, if you even think about dipping your head the slightest bit, he's got one of those big bombs hitting you. So, that's how he scares, that wrestler away from him, because one touch, it's out. Like when he fought Cain Velasquez, as Cain was dipping levels, that's where that hand, it doesn't take much from that power. So it's the angle he throws his single shot powers that keeps the wrestler away. So I think for Stipe, he's going to have to kind of use feints to get inside, and it's an all in or all out. Don't sit there and be comfortable. Try to wrestle. But that's a big, strong man. I mean, you're talking about a man who's cutting down to make the limit of the weight, which is crazy. And hearing Stipe's approach, Stipe was asked what was his biggest improvement since his first fight with Ngannou, and he says his efficiency, which I think is important against Ngannou. Ngannou would be the opposite. He's inefficient. Everything's power. Everything's full of energy. So if Stipe can wear him down, move his feet, maybe take some patient rounds, hit the body, move, clinch and grab, I mean, that's his key to victory. And like everyone says, if you're a betting person, if you're going to bet Ngannou, under 1.5 is probably your best bet. If you think Stipe is going to win, you got to go that over 1.5.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
Really?
I think Francis is dangerous. I mean, every round starts standing.
Okay.
And I think that Francis is dangerous for the entire fight. I honestly do. I think that a lot of people are underestimating his cardio because we just don't know. Like, he's only been in one fight, like the one with Stipe, basically, like a fight where he just kept getting taken down and kept getting held there. That kind of thing might not happen this time around, now that he's training with much better training partners at Extreme Couture. So I'm interested to see how much he has worked on that part of his game, because if he can stuff takedowns, this is a whole new ball game. I have to lean Francis in this fight for that reason. It's just I usually like to side with the known versus the unknown, but the unknown in this case is so intriguing because we don't know how much better he's gotten. And I believe that Eric Nicksick is one of the top coaches in the game. It's nothing to take away from Stipe's coaching team, Marinelli, and all the guys that he's come up with at Strong Style in Ohio. But, we have to remember, in the last fight, he had a completely different corner than he's going to have this time around. I mean, I think Dewey Cooper might have been in the corner for the first fight against Stipe, but, this time around, you've got Nicksick, you've got Kamaru Usman's going to be in the corner, you've got Dewey Cooper still in the corner. So I'm interested to see what kind of adjustments he can make. And, it's funny, I asked, how well do you remember the Rosenstrike fight?
I just remember how wild Ngannou was, and just the idea of sloppy punches thrown wild and hard, doesn't matter, committed, he's going to knock you out. So they weren't the most technical punches, but I remember them being wild and aggressive.
Well, I spoke to Coach Nicksick, and I said, I know you as a coach. You like to be kind of patient. You like to win.
Set things up. Yeah,
set things up. You're very methodical. I go, when you saw Francis do that to Rosenstrike, because he was basically going on emotion. Rosenstrike hit him. I don't think he liked it. Yeah. And then he just went into berserker mode.
Emotion,
I said, I said, you don't, I go, I don't know how much you know about video games, coach, but that was like a button masher. That wasn't,
seriously.
He wasn't being coached in that moment. And I said, how were you feeling when you saw that happen? What was going through your mind? And he was like, I was so nervous because that was not the plan at all.
Yeah.
He kind of strayed from the game plan. And then afterwards, after he got the knockout, apparently Francis came up to Nicksick and said, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Because Francis knew that he had kind of gone off script.
Yeah.
And Nicksick, instead of being critical and being like, you got to listen to what I'm saying, he was like, I don't know, but that's great. You got to win. You still have to tell the guy that he's done a good job because, hey, that was a good job.
Yeah. But I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here because I've seen through my years of martial arts experience, when you take a raw, powerful athlete like Francis Ngannou now, and you try to make him a finesse fighter, you get him to sit behind a jab, move his feet. Sometimes that power striker starts to overthink, and then it slows them down, and then you lose that natural ability of a big killer that should come in there and just smash faces. So I've seen it hurt people sometimes when you try to take that, the dog away, that fight, that aggression. So I've seen it really mess up careers, especially in heavyweight when they try to get too technical. But also that wildness in those combinations, that's actually a good strategy. If you're going to commit to a combination sometimes, it's better to throw it with everything, because even if that opponent tries to counter, they're going to open up. You've committed so much, and good knockouts happen when you commit 100% to your combination. So that really wasn't, when people say, oh, that was so messy and technical, it wasn't the best idea. Yes, I agree. But when you commit like that, that was my style of fighting too. You go all out. If they try to counter, they're just going to open themselves up. So I think his power and his commitment to his strikes make him that much more dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very interested to see how this one goes because, I hear a lot of the fighters that are asked about it. Most of them like Stipe in this fight. And
really?
That always gives me pause. Well, because I feel like people know what Stipe can do, and Stipe has made improvements. Here's the thing with Stipe, and I've always said this. This guy might be the most disrespected fighter in the history of the UFC.
I have to agree.
And the reason why I say that is you don't hear him talked about one of the best in the UFC or pound for pound. It's so much harder to have a good win rate at heavyweight. And he's really the only heavyweight that's had the kind of longevity that a fighter's had at heavyweight. And here's the other thing that really bothers me about it. And I talk about this all the time. When Cormier beat him the first time, had Cormier retired right there and then, double champion, light heavyweight, heavyweight champion. He was 39, I believe, at the time. Had he just walked away from the game, people would have said Cormier is a top 5 all-time fighter. And he still would be. He talked about today as a top 3, top 5 all-time fighter because of his accolades. Stipe had beat that guy twice. Like, we forget that he beat a guy that at the time people considered to be a top 5 all-time fighter, not once but twice.
Yeah.
And I think that people just disregard that. They disregard. They then write Cormier off, and they don't give Stipe any of the credit.
Yeah.
And to me, that's so insulting to the guy, because I think, you know, people talk about Fedor. Fedor had an amazing streak. If you want to talk about longevity at heavyweight, he had an amazing streak in the Pride days. But there's all these questions about Pride and how legit it was, and he had all these weird opponents, kind of freak show fights. Stipe was beating the best of the best guys. Has been beating the best of the best guys, I should say, for years and years and years at the highest level in the UFC, refined fighters. I believe Stipe is the greatest heavyweight of all time. I know most people probably lean towards Fedor, and I'm not gonna, you know, say that that's a wrong opinion. It's an opinion. But to me, like, Stipe is the best to have ever done it in the heavyweight division. He's got all the tools. He doesn't have any weaknesses, really. Like, can you name a weakness that Stipe has?
No, not at all. You know?
Right. I mean, at least with Francis, you can say maybe his takedown defense is his weakness, because we've seen him get taken down and held down. But for Stipe, like, can you think of him getting taken down and held down? Can you think of him? I mean,
good boxing.
And then people say that he's got a bad chin. He's been knocked out twice. And Cormier would have knocked any human being on the planet out with that shot.
Oh yeah, it was right on the button, perfectly timed, unprepared for the shot, for sure. So, no, I agree with you. I mean, I just think the problem with him is there's no flair behind his performances sometimes. Not the performances, but of, like, the fight week. You know, he's working at the firehouse, you know, 8 days before. He's rolling up, just being so nice to people, thankful. Like, he's not coming in a yacht. He doesn't have a fur coat on. He doesn't have a pair of glasses on, walking through with no shirt on.
Yeah, he has eyeglasses on.
Yeah, he's just being like, if anything, like, I want to see more of the blue collar, like, that immigrant mentality that he represents. I mean, it's surprising to me that he's almost like a George St. Pierre type of guy, where, like, his mentality is not much different than GSP, right? GSP maybe promoted the more of being a martial artist, but Stipe, the family man, the hardworking man, like, he goes to work. Like, that's something I'm surprised, but I just think in this generation, we like money, popularity, fame. We want to see that more from our champions, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, because it seems like people like to think that they can relate to the unrelatable people.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I hate to get political, but, you know, Donald Trump's a great example. The blue collar Americans, a lot of them liked him as a president because he was just a normal guy becoming president. Yeah. But he's not a normal guy. He's a wealthy guy that came from wealth and you know, has always been, you know, at eating steaks and out in New York and being a socialite. Like, these are the things that normal Americans are.
Yeah.
Whereas with Stipe is your everyday blue collar American who also is a firefighter that helps people. Like, he wants to help people for a living. And he, you know, I asked him about his legacy. I said, you know, whenever you're asked about your legacy or, you know, whether you're disrespected, I said, you always say you don't care. And, you know, I don't know if that's because he's focused on the task at hand. So I said, why don't you care? Like, what will it get? Like, is it something you'll care about after your career? And he was like, no, the only legacy I care about is the legacy I'm leaving for my kids.
Yeah. That's
right?
beautiful. Yeah. Why not? Who
and
cares
I said
about
to him,
other
like,
people?
I go, there's not much more for you to do. You're a firefighter. You help your community, and you're one of the greatest fighters of all time. Like, your legacy for your kids is, like, you're good, right? But he's like, you know, I still love this game. I still love fighting. And as long as I love doing this, I'm going to keep doing it. And, obviously that's a great answer.
All right. So what's the path for him? I mean, he gets a win. Obviously, it's the John Jones fight, right? What happens if he, you know, ends up unsuccessful in this fight? Where do you see Stipe's path in the future?
I think he would probably face Derek Lewis next.
That's a
or
fair
maybe
shot.
Maybe a Volkov.
For, like, another title elimination style and give him one more shot at the belt, maybe, or.
Well, there's a lot of options. The thing about Stipe is because he has fought two guys for the last 4 years. You look at, it's basically been Cormier and now Francis, because he's going to have fought Francis twice and Cormier 3 times. There are a lot of heavyweights that he has not fought. You look at Volkov, you look at Blades, you look at Derek Derek Lewis. Like there's a lot of good names that Stipe has yet to go get into the cage against. Rosenstrike, Gane. Like there are a ton of options for him if he loses. I just don't think that's the option he wants.
Yeah. So do you see him exiting the sport at that point, or is it more of we don't know? We're just gonna see how it goes.
I don't think he knows.
Yeah.
I don't think he's thinking about what happens if I lose. I don't think fighters like to think about that.
Yeah. No, I think he seems to be so planned out with everything. I'm sure he's got an idea, but I don't know. I personally think Ngannou is going to go get the win, and I just want to see, being a fan, I'm a little bit more biased, but I want to see Jon Jones versus Francis. I think it's more of that freak show look that I'm going for, that we kind of missed from those old Japan days, but Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou, to me, we said it last year, which is the fight I wanted to see. That's it. So to me, I really, really hope Ngannou wins just for that, what's going to come after.
Well, I'm with you on that. But that being said, if Stipe beats this version of Francis, I think a fight between Stipe and Jon Jones is super intriguing too.
Yeah,
now
it's
you've got
more well-rounded of a fight, you know?
Maybe the best fighter ever, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot to like there. So not a bad consolation prize either way.
Yeah, exactly. True point. But to me, it's that I need to see the freak show, you know? I need to see I want to see Jon Jones against a 265-pounder, you know? And you seen the size of Jon Jones cracking pads the other day? 245, thick like an ox, just banging away. What did I say, 145? No.
No, you said 245.
Oh, okay. I thought you corrected my weight. It was like, damn,
no, I said 240, 245, like in that range.
Oh, yeah, he's massive and thick. So I was like, that looks good. I think he's going to really adapt well, and I think, it's tough to say, but, I mean, I think he's your champ.
Yeah, well, this is the thing about Jon Jones. Like, lately, he's been more of a point fighter. He's been more of a technical point fighter. At heavyweight, doesn't always translate, especially when you're facing a guy like Francis. I think, like with Stipe, Jones would kind of need to get a takedown on Francis in order to beat him.
You don't think distance control, movement, kind of making him miss, making him pay is a style? But I don't know. Because I think what Ngannou would have to do is kind of what he did against Rosenstruck. Get in there. When you do commit, go wild and smash his face, you know? Like, don't sit there and try to play the game with him. When you go commit,
I'm with you.
And just go after him, you know? Like, be the bigger, stronger, more physical man that you are. And I think that's the only way.
Fight in spurts.
Yeah, exactly. Move, wait your time, and then when it's go or don't go, you know? That kind of mentality. But it's up there. I'm excited. I want to see it. But like you said, Stipe, again, doesn't get the respect that he deserves. I think his mentality, his blue-collar work, his all-American style, like I think he definitely deserves the credit and hopefully gets that recognition of, you know, because he deserves all of it and more.